Okay, hey guys, and welcome. Here's the tea. I have tried so many times to record this already, and somehow I'm still struggling. I'm not the best at speaking, I suppose, in this format because I am quite aware that I am recording myself to be viewed by other people, and confidently speaking on my own and not having a back and forth conversation is very difficult for me unless it is around something that I'm used to talking about, which this is not something I am used to talking about yet because I was only diagnosed a couple of weeks ago. This video is going to be about my journey, my diagnosis of autism, and other things surrounding it. I don't know how much I will cover yet since I am still processing all of this, and there are probably going to be many more videos to come. Some more videos which will be coming soon will be videos voicing the opinions and expressions of other autistic women who were brave enough to comment on my Reddit post asking what they would like non autistic people to know if they could have a chance to voice. So, if you would like to go and watch that, then please stay tuned and there will be a video of that soon, or some videos since I did get quite a lot of replies. If you're watching this video not long after it is aired, then I'm actually doing a charity fundraiser for the National Autistic Society. The link will be below. I'll be doing this until the end of April, from I suppose the day that this video is aired, or a few days before, possibly if it takes me a while to edit this. My official autism diagnosis was given to me around a few weeks ago now, at the age of 24. This whole process has been quite a shock to me, as you can probably imagine. Unlike a lot of people who I've watched videos on who have spoken about autism and their diagnoses and things, I'd actually never considered autism or even had actually heard about how it accurately presents in females until maybe 9 to 12 months ago now, after a nurse at my local doctor's brought it up during my usual trying to get therapy for anxiety appointment, which was kind of routine for me at this point since I had been multiple times to try and get help with my anxiety, which never seemed to ease. She soon started to ask me questions that were not actually typical to be asked for this, especially since I kind of knew the drill at this point. I had obviously been there quite a few times to go and try and get anxiety therapy, so I was used to the questions that would get asked. Later on, she then posed to me the question of if anyone had ever mentioned to me that I could possibly be autistic before, to which I was like, well, mm, no, never. I have been diagnosed with anxiety and depression. I have been thought to potentially be at risk of being bipolar, but never had I ever had autism mentioned to me, not once. She then asked me if I would be okay with her referring me for an assessment, to which I kind of replied, well, yeah. I was shocked, I was taken aback, but I didn't quite know how to digest this because now there was a looming question over my head. Am I autistic or am I not? And it was not unknown to me that the waiting list for autism assessments can be quite long. So I wasn't quite sure how I would manage with the wait for that, since it was still quite a long time to wait for other diagnosis appointments, which were more common and tended to not be as lengthy, since I had also learned that with autism assessments, they have to go through your developmental history, they have to go over a lot more than typically they would need for other diagnoses that I had already gained, such as anxiety and depression. Though, despite the shock, the confusion, and I suppose the feeling of being overwhelmed, I was mostly relieved and thankful that finally some medical professional was looking outside of the box of the two labels I had previously been given that Although they did explain some of what I struggle with, they didn't seem to tick all of the boxes. They didn't explain everything that I deal with, everything about me, all of my seemingly unique battles compared to at least the other people I knew who also experienced depression and anxiety. Granted, we all have our own, like, truly unique experiences, and no two people go through the same thing, but I was experiencing things a different way to many people, and I never quite knew why. And finally, someone was realizing, hey, there seems to be something else at play here. I thought even if it doesn't end up being the right diagnosis, at least they'll look in. By the titles of this video, you know I was diagnosed with autism anyway, but now I have this unknown thing above me. I need to find the answers. I need to find out how it could make sense to someone else, let alone myself. So I ended up going on a massive deep dive about autism, and specifically autism in females, since this nurse had also let me know that it does display differently in females and also informed me of masking. Then it was like, ta-da! Everything finally makes sense. Like everything finally started to make sense. So many things that I had read and watched were so relatable, almost scarily so, but in a good way, not in a bad one, because it finally felt like I wasn't alone for all of the things I've had to hide, for all of the things I felt ostracized for and made to feel weird or unaccepted because of. Everything that no one else had ever understood when I expressed it was now things that I was seeing other people expressing, and I was reading it or watching it, and I could see them expressing the same things that I had been internally thinking and feeling all of this time. It wasn't all great though, unfortunately, because as I continued the process of doing the forms, researching more into autism, and feeling kind of like the questions felt targeted at me in some ways, it was overwhelming. I wasn't scared that I could be autistic. I was more scared that I wouldn't be. I was worried that I'd found a place that I had finally fitted in, where I related to other people and others seemed to relate towards me as well. And at any moment, it could all be taken away. At any moment, I could be told that the results are that I am not autistic. I had to daily, at times, force myself to tell myself that you're not autistic, just in case I wouldn't be. Because honestly, after digging up so much for the assessments and spending months talking about all my flaws, struggles, and things that make me inadequate to those around me, it took a major toll. I was so burnt out, I was having meltdowns all of the time. I couldn't do the things that I was interested in and obsessed with, things that in hindsight are my actual special interests. I was just flawed. It really did take a major toll. The final days before my results phone call, I was experiencing a major roller coaster of emotions. I just wanted to know so my brain could at least quieten down at last a little bit. Finally, no longer having the question looming above my head. Finally, knowing if I had finally found a diagnosis and a right one after a lifetime of feeling like nothing explained what I experienced. I was scared that I would find and feel all that to then be told, hey, it's not that. You don't have your place to fit in. You cannot relate to these people because you aren't autistic. In hindsight, there were many, many signs, but it got put down to me being shy, being quirky, being creative or clever. Only I've never seen myself as naturally clever or talented or any of those things, especially not since I've been out of education. Everything that I was and that I am good at, I have worked really hard for, just like any other person, neurotypical or not. At least for me, I find it harder to excel at things that I am not highly interested in or that I am not extremely drawn to. In the past, for me, hyper-focusing on things like my school studies was a way for me to kind of distract myself from my social inabilities. Even if I didn't have any proper friends and I struggled socializing with other people, and I didn't have proper friends like anyone else, at least I had my work. I also feel to a degree that on at least a subconscious level, I kind of appeared to learn that kids would put up with me enough, at least in lessons, to stop the teachers awkwardly pairing me up with kids when they had found me alone, which I had most of my school life, and it was incredibly embarrassing and awkward and did not help me one bit. But they would tolerate me at least and let me appear to be, I suppose, around them if I was able to be useful for them. That sometimes meant picking my brain for answers or for help or things like that because that was where I was better at. Granted, I didn't directly think of it as that, just like I don't actually recall doing when masking as a whole. From my experience, the masking seemed to develop naturally, and somewhere I kind of sensed that I knew I was different to everyone else. So subconsciously, I tried to fit in. It almost became like a second nature to me. Essential for my survival in a world where being sociable is highly important, and falling short seems to be a dreadful experience for many, not just people who are neurodivergent. But for those of us who are, we don't only have to learn to adapt as anyone else would do normally as we grow older, but also to completely disguise ourselves or appear to, at least, the eye of others, but to also disguise ourselves or appear to rewire our brain. Though clearly we cannot rewire it, so instead you just kind of suppress so much of yourself, learn how to pretend to be just like everyone else. And then you go and end up having major meltdowns when you're on your own or in the privacy of your own room. Even now, knowing that I am autistic, knowing that I am perfectly fine just the way I am, knowing that technically speaking, I don't actually have to change, nor could I if I wanted to, at least not in the ways that other people might expect me to. And that, in general, is just okay to be me. I don't have to feel bad for it anymore. But I don't actually know who that is. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I don't know where I would start at chipping away this mask that I have kept building up and adding on to my entire life. How do I separate what's learned from what's me? How do I allow myself to do the things and act the way that I've had to hide and alter ever since I can remember? Stimming, for instance. How do I teach myself that it's okay to move my arms when I'm excited or overstimulated? How do I teach myself that it's not shameful to use fluffy objects to help calm me down, like having a fluffy jumper on, or enjoying wearing my dressing gown, or having a blanket with me when I'm in the comfort of my own home? How do I let myself feel comfortable letting my leg just tap and shake when I'm anxious if that actually helps me feel calmer and reduces the chances of me having a big meltdown later on? How does any actor stop acting a role that they have played the majority of their life, endlessly for decades? Who knows? All I know is that I, for one, aim to find out whether some people will like me or not, find me weird, whether some people will look at me strange, which, due to my dystonia, I'm not exactly a stranger to. People look at me weird all of the time for my physical health condition when that displays in public, so what's kind of different here? Even if it could mean that people might say horrible things or judge me, isn't that better than me going and being endlessly at war with myself? I have to be around me every single day, all of the time. I don't get a break. Everyone else does. No one else has to be around me all of the time. So if I can't feel okay in myself, then what does it matter what anyone else thinks, especially all the strangers or the people who aren't my true friends or the people that will pass me in the street and give me a dirty look and maybe snigger or stare and then pass on by and never come across again. Perhaps this diagnosis will finally give me the strength to become my authentic self and finally to be able to tell her, hey, I see you. You're not that bad. You're just fine the way you are, and you don't need to hide no more. My diagnosis process took around 9 to 12 months, which is kind of typical, or even maybe on the lower end for people waiting for a autism diagnosis. 9 to 12 months in total from the point of being referred for an autism assessment to finally getting my result. That is a long time for your brain and mind to be struggling and overthinking. And sometimes I will admit, like, it was occasionally quite crippling mentally and so emotionally draining and frustrating. But I don't regret it for the world. Once I was finally under the L center, though, it kind of went quite a bit faster. And thankfully, they were amazing and did try to make it as fast as possible whilst also remaining as thorough as needed to be. They were very kind to me along the way. They gave me extra time to fill out my forms because I had had issues with some of the stuff getting erased and I was panicking. They have told me there's no pressure. They understand it's hard and difficult and extremely daunting, I suppose. So they did end up going and helping me a lot, putting up with me being anxious, especially around ETAs and asking them a million questions about things. I even think I did the initial forms. I then went and decided to send them another extra like 2 or 3 pages of stuff post that. They did say I could, but I kind of abused it. I went and sent them essays of extra information that I remembered up to the week following that, which in hindsight probably lengthened the time it took them to get my diagnosis confirmed because there was so much more to sort through than there initially was. But what I have noticed is I have been so much lighter since this diagnosis. I have finally been able to breathe, to stop going and questioning what is wrong with me, feeling overwhelmed and at my wit's end with fighting this battle with the unknown. Now I have the ability to go and look at all of the sources online to find help, support, other people who might be doing better than I am doing and further through their journey than I am, who will have useful helps that might have helped them and could potentially help me. Granted, we're all different, and I will learn many things that other people experience that are majorly different from me. But that is because autism doesn't just display one way. I might be really talkative to some people, to other, or in some instances at least, but to other people, I am shy, I am quiet. I might even come off as rude or come across as angry all the time because my face doesn't correctly display my emotions. But even just for me, what people will tell you about me will depend on who they are, where I know them from, who I felt I had to be to socially survive. in that like situation, experience, group, time of my life. So, so I suppose don't judge yourself or other people based off one or two or three or four or any other known experience because no two people are the same. No two autistic people are the same, just like no two non-autistic people are the same. And the struggles we face might sometimes be similar, but other times it can be vastly different too. Just because you know one autistic person does not mean that you know them all. And you shouldn't invalidate anyone else's experience with autism based upon that. Some people do mask it really well, and other people don't mask it that much at all. And neither one of them is bad, but neither one of them should be invalidated or told that, oh, well, surely you can't be autistic because that is horrid. The things we have to go through just to get a diagnosis, just to even get seen or even suspected of having autism. The last thing we need is someone to throw out the whole, you're not autistic, or everyone's surely a little bit autistic, because I kind of relate to that. As someone on Reddit well said, yes, you might be able to relate to some of our struggles. Say, you might not do so well socially sometimes, or you might get anxious when you're about. But there's a big difference between that and what we would be facing. We might have similar struggles, but we experience them in vastly different ways and to completely different degrees because autism itself is not a mental illness. It is actually just our brains are programmed a different way to the typical person's. We, just like those with ADHD, are just people who have a brain that works differently. It doesn't mean it's faulty. It doesn't mean that we are wrong or that there is something that needs to be fixed. Heck, even if we wanted to fix it, like there is no cure for a neurodivergent brain. Just like there's no cure for many things out there, my dystonia included. We tend to change ourselves to suit those around us and to be as palatable as possible and ensure we don't end up in awkward situations or circumstances with other people. But sometimes we might need a little bit of understanding back too, because it is incredibly difficult to learn all the ever changing rules and things that are expected of you socially that are unspoken and appear to be naturally kind of learned by other people who aren't necessarily on the autistic spectrum. But for us, typically anyway, that is a lot harder. We don't inherently know what we're supposed to do, and sometimes we need things to be explained, and other times sometimes we might need people to just let one or two things slip rather than us having to keep on putting a mask all of the time and do things which are, at the minimum, extremely exhausting to us. But yes, this will probably be the end of this podcast thing for today. I will be doing more, hopefully in actual daylight, so the lighting isn't as bad. Hopefully, as well, I might do a bit better with the speaking. I don't know how I'd have done. I'm gonna be trying my best. It's new for me. I'll get into the swing of it soon enough. But there are many things that I'd like to voice on this channel, and one topic of that being autism and trying to raise awareness about it and reduce the stigma because, as I've been told by quite a few people, I they would have never have thought that I would be autistic, and I don't fit the stereotype that the media badly portrays that is very highly inaccurate. So I suppose the more of us that end up going and speaking about it and showing all the different ways it can look, whether that's showing how you are when you're masking, how when you're not masking, whether that's someone talking about it. Like, people need to be made aware of what autism can be like, but not just for me, for other people too. So if you do find my videos, I would highly urge you to watch other people's videos. If you'd like some channels that are great on autism as a whole, I do believe the Aspie World is one that I have actually been watching a lot. He's amazing and does so many videos covering pretty much anything. Brilliant at speaking as well. Very easy to listen to. Videos are very well structured, unlike mine are going to be at the start, but I will get a hang of that, I promise. Another one is also Paige Lale or Leal. I don't know how you pronounce that, but she is also amazing. I believe Purple Ella also does some videos on autism. I could probably keep going on and on, but those are the main ones I can remember off the top of my head. I think there's also, is it Charlotte or something who is on Just Tattoo of Us? She also does speak about autism in females specifically as well. But they all are on the platform. I will try to link the channels in the description also under a section titled More Stuff on Autism. But to prevent a risk of me going and having to cut out a million ums because I am majorly off script now, I will call it one for today. If you would like to help with raising money for the National Autistic Society, then please go and check out the description and pinned message. If you would like to check out any of my other social medias and channels, they will be listed below. I have a Discord that I'm a part of that is for autistic females. If you would like to join there, then I will also post a Discord link in the below. Please go and hit that thumbs up if you've made it this far and have enjoyed. Possibly hit that subscribe button if you would like to see some more. I'll be trying to upload as frequently as I can, but I am not quite sure how often that will be yet because I've got quite a lot going on at the moment, and these videos are something that takes more out of me since it is a new form of media for me to produce. But thank you so much for going and sitting and listening to my talk about autism and my initial thoughts after the process, and I suppose a bit about my diagnosis process. I will do a more in-depth video on loads of various bits and bobs. If you have anything you would like in particular, then comment down below and let me know what you think. Please feel free to comment your experiences down below. The more the merrier. And if you are also a creator that talks about autism a lot and your channel is based around stuff like that, then feel free to also mention that in your comment too. I am sure more people would love to go and have more information and more experiences and voices to listen to regarding their own things because we all experience this differently. Not everyone will relate to me. So if someone doesn't relate to me, you never know. They probably might relate to you. I hope this has been somewhat useful. I will read all of the comments. I will try and get back to as many as I can. And thank you for watching. Oh, I'm so bad at this. I don't know how I'm going to go and make this video short. It's probably just going to be like an hour-long podcast or something dumb. Why do I do this to myself? All I usually do is stream, do art, and play games because it's my comfy area, right? And now I'm trying to do this. So yeah, we'll hope that this gets published and that I'm not crying at myself when I'm watching it, but we'll see. We'll see.